friends, I'm Tina Zink, also known as the Serene Stamper, and I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up! Here in Nova Scotia, Canada. Today's video features the faux metal technique. Now this technique has been around for quite a while, so it's not new, though it may be new to some of you, and if it is, you're going to be wowed. This is such a neat technique, and there's so many different ways that you can use it. I will have more videos coming soon with different embellishments and different ways that you can use this technique in your cards, your projects, your scrapbooking. I think you're really going to enjoy it. But today's video features a tag that we made during one of our specialty classes at my spring creative retreat. I shared those photos on my blog, and I've had tons of requests for either tutorials or a video on how to create these beautiful tags, and we featured the Sailing Home stamp set for this project. So these are the tags that we made. Aren't they neat? And you could use any stamp set, of course, but I loved the Sailing Home stamp set for this technique, and the coordinating dies as well add a really nice touch for this. But of course, you could use any stamp set that you have. If you don't have the Sailing Home stamp set, and if you're in Canada and you want to order it, please visit my online store. I'd be happy to help you, or pop me an email. I'll have all the links in my video description for you. Okay, let's get started. This is the Come Sail Away suite. It's on page 144 and 145 of our 2019-2020 annual catalog. And I am using this stamp set, the Sailing Home stamp set. I'm also using the smooth sailing dies as well as our Sail Away trinkets. So let me show you those trinkets. I have a few left from my retreat. Actually, 2 left. So these are the trinkets. They're super adorable. Can't wait to get more of those. Okay, and these are the coordinating dies. So for this particular project, I want to use this one here. I want to use the wheel and the anchor as well. So I'm just putting them on my Big Shot with some Whisper White cardstock. And I've got my magnetic pad on, put my plate on, and run them through. Okay, so for this technique, you're going to need silver embossing powder. So when I held my specialty class, everybody received a new bottle of embossing powder. So I've just got mine in a container with a spoon. The other thing I'm using is a tag. Now, I had a bunch of tags in my craft stash. I've had them for years. No idea where I got them. But you could easily make your own tags. Now, the first thing I want to do on this tag is add some color. So I'm going to start with my Seaside spray, and I've got my sponge sprayer. I'm just taking off some of the ink because I've been using the sprayer a lot lately. Okay. And I'm just going to sponge on some color. And this doesn't have to be perfect, and it would have been better to use a clean sponge sprayer, but I'm not really concerned because I'm going to be going over this with different colors. And I'm going to do the back as well, just so that the back looks nice, because I'm probably going to keep these as bookmarks, and then I've got them as nice little gifts to pass out. I'm going to go into my old olive. And I'm going to get this, kind of dark. Now I'm going into Pretty Peacock. And I'm not cleaning the sponge because I'm going into a darker color anyways. See how nice that looks with all the different colors? Gonna add a bit on the back. Ooh, that got really dark. That's all right. Just add some more and blend it in. And I'm also not concerned about the lines that I'm getting from the edge of the roller either. To me, that just kind of adds to it. I actually like it darker, so I'm going to add some more. You might think, oh, well, you've just gone over that entire Seaside spray, but in reality, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I can actually see all the different shades, so it's just fine. Gonna add a bit more green. Okay. I think that's good. Bring in the pretty peacock back. And now I want to stamp some of these designs. We're just creating our background right now. So I'm going to start with this one. Okay, so this is a piece of the chipboard that comes behind our designer series paper. You could use any kind of chipboard. You can use the Whisper white cardstock. This measures 1 3/4 by 2.5. This is where the heat embossing comes in. The whole point of faux embossing is building up the embossed layer so that we can actually stamp into it. And just so you know, it won't hurt your stamps. So I'm taking my watermark ink pad, my Versamark ink pad, and I'm just covering it. So I'm just going to sprinkle on my silver embossing powder. And set that with the heat tool. Now sometimes that is usually hot enough that you can sprinkle more powder on right on top without even having to use your Versamark on it, but I'm actually going to give that a second to dry and use the Versamark on top because it's a bigger piece that we're doing for the faux metal technique, and I really want to have a good solid coverage of the embossing powder. Okay, so that's dry, so I'm stamping it again with my Versamark, making sure to get it all. And more powder on that. I'm going to hold that down this time and zap it again. Do this at least 3 more times. You want it to be really, really thick. Okay, so this is ready for one more layer and then the stamping. Now, before I do that next layer, I want to position my stamp and I'm going to position my sentiment. Now, the sentiment I'm using for this tag comes from this set. This is called A Good Man, and it's a wonderful stamp set. And the sentiment Relax Your Way I thought was perfect for this tag. So I have that as well. And I'm just going to position it right there like that. I'm going to take my block, and I'm also inking these with Versamark. And the reason for that is it will help pull these images off the embossed layer a lot easier. Okay, let's get our last layer on here. You need to have your stamps ready because you want to stamp them into this while it's still warm and soft. You will know when this is ready to be stamped on when you actually see that embossing powder moving with the heat tool. So you really want to make sure you've got it thick enough. Okay. And you want to push that in nice and firmly. Really push down with some oomph. You really want to make sure that's pushed nice and deeply into that embossing powder. So if when you lift up your stamp, and we will find out how mine is when I pull it up in a second, if it's not exactly the way you want it, if the impression's not deep enough and not detailed enough, you can actually reheat that background, put on more powder, and do it again. So it's very, very forgiving. Okay, let's see what we've got. Oh, I think that's perfect. You can easily, there's a little blob there. That's okay, it's readable. So Relax Your Way, and you've got all that nice detail of the lighthouse in there as well. So I'm really, really pleased with that. So I also want to heat emboss these die cuts. Now, you could go ahead and use, you know, silver foil cardstock, but I want it to be thicker so that it actually looks like more than just cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss these, and I'm only going to emboss 2 layers of embossing powder onto these pieces. Next, I'm taking the anchor embellishment and I'm going to emboss on this too. Now you may think, well, it's already silver, why emboss? Because 2 reasons why I'm doing it. One, it's a different silver finish to this. It's a bit more matte and a bit more gray, and I want it to be exactly the same so it all blends nice, and it gives it a bit of a different look. It will hide a little bit of the detail, but it looks really, really neat when it's all done. Just inking that up, and this will get hot. So you definitely need a tool to hold it down. I'm actually just gonna throw that in and pick it up with the tool. Making sure I've got embossing powder off of my tool because I don't want to emboss it. And I'm just gonna hold that down. Okay, so while that's cooling, I want to make the little paper rings that go around that bit. I forget what they're called right now. So I'm just gonna take some of my ink and roll it on here. That's good. Then I'm taking my crocodile and I'm gonna punch 2 circles like that. And now I'm taking my 1/2 inch circle punch and I'm just centering that circle right in the middle. I'm doing that again over here. So I'm gonna glue those on. And that just adds a nice finishing touch to the tag. Okay, now I'm going to cut this in half because now it's time to start embellishing this tag. Okay. And I'm going to position that where, right here. Go up a bit, I think. And as I'm pushing down, some of that glue is spreading. That's great. I want that because I'm going to sprinkle this with a bit more embossing powder, and then it just really adds that little extra silver on there. It looks really, really cool. You know what? Let's go ahead and glue this on as well. Okay, now this, I love this embellishment. I'm going to cut this up a little bit. That one there like that. And any little bits that are hanging over, I will trim. That's trimmed. I'm going to sprinkle on some embossing powder and zap this with the heat tool. So the little bit of glue that got here and there is going to add some of that nice silver embossing powder and make it all blend in. And I just want to take my paintbrush and take some of it off the words. Don't want it to hide that. Okay, so there's my tag, and you can see I've got the extra embossing in there. Looks really, really cool. Now I'm going to take this guy and add some glue. So that's what we've got. Lots of dimension, lots of cool things going on with that. I'm going to set that aside. And now I'm going to dye some twine type, ropey type things. Again, it was in my stash, so just use what you have. And I think I still have enough ink on this to add some color to this, which I do. Okay, so I am just going to bring these two ends together, bring that up together, and then this bit down here. So I'm going to pull these through from the front to the back. And there is my finished tag with the faux embossing. So I'll show you the first one I did. Now this one looks completely different because I didn't add the anchor. And the anchor takes up a lot of space, so it looks a lot busier, of course. And I also used different colors in the background of this one. I used Night of Navy. And this one, I used the sailboat instead of the lighthouse. And I also used the wheel on here instead of the little anchor like I did on these two. And this is how I finished off this tag here. So you can really decorate the back. This one has just the stamping. I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the little bell next to it so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Happy stamping!